Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our North Santa Barbara County Real Estate Market webinar. I'm Corby Gage, Executive Director of Coastal Housing Partnership. With us today is Kim Pascage from the partnership as well. She's our program manager. And today's webinar features two North County real estate agents, Maudia Rivas with Big Block Realty, and there's Maudia waving, and Roberta Badertscher. Oh, Roberta, I messed it up. Please say your last name.
That's okay. It's Badertscher.
Badertscher. Okay, thank you. With Coldwell Bankers Select Realty. And both Maudia and Roberta are part of Coastal Housing Partnerships Network. As part of this network, Maudia and Roberta contribute a portion of their commission back to their clients who are employed by companies that are part of Coastal Housing Partnership. So that's you. And before we get started, we'd just like to take an anonymous poll to determine where today's attendees are in the process of buying a home. And that way we hope to gear our comments towards, best to meet your needs. So if you would take that poll, and then we will have that information. And of course, we'll be getting opportunity for you to ask questions as well. That helps us. Okay. I'll wait just a little bit for a few more responses. Okay, so we're going to close that poll. All right, thank you for sharing that information. So the format for today's webinar, I'm going to be asking Maudia and Roberta some questions about the process of buying a home and how to be competitive in today's real estate market. The remainder of our time together will be for you to have your questions answered. So we'll be recording today's webinar, and we can send you a link to the webinar. The webinar format means that your camera is off and your mic is off. So if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. And you can ask your questions anonymously if you like, and you can put those questions in at any time throughout the webinar. They're not going to disrupt anything. So just when you think of a question, please go ahead and put that in the Q&A, and we will get to all of the questions. That's a really important part of our time together, because that's, we know then we're addressing your specific needs. And Kim will be fielding these questions for Maudia and Roberta to answer. So we, at Coastal Housing Partnership, we can't stress enough the importance of working with a real estate agent. There's so much value that comes with working with a professional agent and having that professional representation. The seller most likely will have an agent working for them. So as the buyer, if you aren't not working with an agent, it really puts you at a disadvantage. So we highly recommend you working with an agent. And the great part about the agents that we work with that are part of our network is not only do a buyer's agent isn't charging the buyer, but the buyer's agent actually gives a portion of their commission back to their client, and you have that money to put toward other closing costs. So you have an agent working for you that you don't have to pay for, and they're actually giving you some money toward your closing costs. So that's a really great formula for making it so much easier to get into a home. So let's get started. Maudia, would you please share a little bit about yourself, your background?
Of course. Hello, everybody. I'm very excited to be on here today. As they said, my name is Maudia Rivas. I'm a current Lompoc resident. I've lived back and forth between Lompoc and Santa Barbara my entire young adult life, and spent a good amount of time living in San Ynez Valley, as I worked at the Shumash Casino for about 17 years, which is where I originally heard about coastal housing. Unfortunately, it wasn't before we purchased our first home, but I know about it now, so here to share it with everyone else. I'm married to a combat veteran, United States Marine Corps, and we have two beautiful children, my son Bo and my daughter Gianna. That's it about me. I work for Big Block, the MAT group brokered by Big Block Realty.
Great. Thanks, Maudia.
Yeah.
Roberta, would you share a bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Yeah, again, my name is Roberta Badertscher, and I'm with Coldwell Banker in Lompoc. I grew up in Goleta, and in 1992, we drove up here, loved the area, so we moved here, raised all three of our kids, and thank you for having me today.
Great. Well, thank you. Both Roberta and Maudia cover all of the area of North Santa Barbara County. So if you're looking for information about the Lompoc market, Santa Maria, the Valley, they both have that information and are going to be a wealth of information for you today. So Maudia, let's get started with you. So what should someone do to prepare if they're wanting to purchase a home? How do they get started? What's the best way to be the most competitive?
Okay. There are a lot of things you can do to prepare yourself to purchase a home. I'll go over a couple things quickly and then get into more detail. Make sure your credit is good. Have 2 years of consistent income. Make sure your debt to income ratio is good. Research all the costs associated with purchasing and get pre-approved. So credit, you want to have a credit score of around 620. The better your score, the better interest rates you're going to get, most likely. Income, most lenders will require 2 years of consistent consecutive income. Debt, you'll want at least 3 lines of credit with good standing and no late fees. Research, dive in and figure out all the costs associated. Some examples are down payment, closing costs, general home maintenance, and which leads to next part and getting pre-approved. And it's very important in this market to get pre-approved because it is moving. Things don't stay on the market long. It'll also let sellers know that you're serious and you're ready to go. And that, I mean, you'll know what you qualify for, which is important. You don't want to waste time looking at houses you may not be able to afford. And in fact, a lot of people won't even let you see your a house now without being pre-approved or pre-qualified.
It seems that that's getting much more strict, Maudia, with that need for that pre-approval. We've always recommended that folks get pre-approved because it's just a smart move. But I'm hearing that more and more, like you can't go see an open house without a pre-approval. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, and especially because of COVID, they are just trying to eliminate people that didn't necessarily need to be there because they weren't serious enough about purchasing. So yeah, it's very important. Like most of the time, and even a lot of agents aren't going to take people to see homes if they're not pre-approved.
Okay.
Just the most important first step.
Great. Well, I think that is important. And it's also getting a pre-approval. There's no cost to you as a potential buyer. There's no cost to get a pre-approval. So it takes a little bit of time, but it's a really good first step and a great tool. So thanks for bringing that part up. I think that's really important. So Roberta, what's the process of finding a home, including, up to making an offer? How does someone go about that?
Well, definitely being pre-approved. And then working with an agent is a good benefit for more than one reason. Another reason is that being in this fast-paced market, homes are coming up and within 24 hours, they could have offers. And so if you're working with an agent, they can let you know instead of you going online and finding a house and then wanting to set the appointment, the home may be gone. And also as agents, sometimes we hear about homes that are going to hit the market that haven't yet. And we can let our buyers know, hey, this is coming, to make sure that they're prepared and set up an appointment if they'd like to take a look. And then once they find a house, what I like to do with my clients is I sit down with them and I show them what homes in that area have sold for, so that they can come up with how much they'd like to offer for the home. So they have a better idea in case they haven't been following the market, and they won't know the market like we do. So we're there to help them and give them the information that they need.
It seems like that's one of the most important, to me, values of working with a real estate agent is really just, what do you offer for a home? It's, you think, well, if you offer full price, isn't that going to be enough? But if you're working with an agent who really knows that market, they're going to realize, oh, even asking full price, offering full price isn't going to be enough. You might need to go over here because multiple offers or whatever. So you really keep a good handle on that and really track that market to be able to identify a really good value.
Yeah, and we are seeing that where offers are coming in a little bit higher.
Mm. So do you generally get a good sense from the listing agent, how many offers are coming in or kind of where they're coming in? Will they give you that information?
Not technically. Well, the question that they usually will answer is how many, I'll ask them if they have any offers. And they may say yes, that they do have offers, but a lot of the times they don't share the terms.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then
Right.
we do have a question on the pre-approval. Can I insert that now, or?
Sure, that's great.
Yeah, how long is the pre-approval valid, considering a home search can take 6+ months?
It really depends on the lender. They all have different time frames. Most of them are up to 90 days, and they can be renewed pretty easily as long as none of your important financial information has changed.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people think, well, there's no point in getting that pre-approval because I'm not going to buy for 6 to 9 months, but it's such an important tool, and it's easy to get it refreshed, or even if it's out of date, it's still a tool for you to know what you can afford. And usually a lender can get you an updated one pretty quickly when you're ready to make that offer. So just important to have a really, valid one when you're making that offer. So good.
That's true. And one thing I like to tell the buyers that I work with too is that when a lender qualifies them, they're going to want to make sure what the payment is, because the lender may give them, a high amount and they may not be comfortable with that payment. So it's important to know where you're going to be as far as payment too.
That's a good point, Roberta. I think one thing that sometimes, a lender will tell you what they're willing to loan you, but maybe the buyer is saying, well, I have a lot of other costs that I'm not comfortable making such a big percentage of my income toward housing. I've got, kids going off to college, I'm saving up for that, or I'm ready to retire, or a number of things where they're saying, well, I'm just not wanting to put that much toward housing. So that's a good conversation to have with the lender, and don't stop the process because the lender says, well, your payment's going to be X, and you go, that's too high. Say, no, well, let's see, how can I get my payment to this amount? So really good conversation. I think that's so important in terms of that relationship with the lender and the real estate agent. It's a back and forth, and really communicate with them. Don't feel embarrassed to communicate anything, or just really be upfront with them about, what your situation is, that they're there to help you and make sure that you get into a home. So, just make sure that that's a really comfortable relationship for you. Good points. Well, so what should someone look for in a real estate agent, Maudia? What kinds of questions would they ask when they're interviewing? What's important for a potential home buyer to be looking for in a real estate agent?
So I just did a video about this for my social media. The top 3 or 4 things I would ask when interviewing. You want to know how long they've been doing real estate. Experience is important. I mean, every deal is different, so we're still learning. Every time we do a deal, there's always going to be something new. You want to know if they're doing real estate full time. When I first started, I was at the casino 10 hours, and I was doing real estate and on the weekends, and it was a lot. And I don't think I could best serve my clients that way, being so occupied with a full-time job. So a couple of years ago, going full-time, it's just made all the difference. We want to be present, and we want to be, 100% for our clients. Another thing is make sure you get along with that person. You're going to be spending some time, and it should be a fun experience. It should be, it can be stressful, especially in this market because there's a lot of competition. So just be with somebody that you're comfortable with and that you have faith in and you feel comfortable having those conversations with. And I kind of feel like it's important if they work with a group or if they have business partners. I mean, we do work all the time, but sometimes we want to take a weekend off. So it's important to know that there's going to be somebody there that can show you houses if I can't, get to it right away. Yeah, those are just a few things that are important to ask.
Good points. Good points. Roberta, what else would someone ask in addition to the points that Maudia has brought up?
Well, I think it's important that the person that you work with communicates with you. I've heard people say, I've called a lot of agents and no one got back to me. So I think communication, not just in the beginning, but throughout the whole transaction, just keeping them updated, calling, when needed. And if you don't necessarily need to call them at least once a week to say, check in, escrow is going great, just to give them an update so that they know that you're still connected. And then also you want to make sure that they know the market, that they're knowledgeable and that they, like Maudia said, full-time, preferably, and then just that they know the market.
And how do you find that out? Do you ask them where have been your last transactions, or how do you get a sense of them knowing the market? Because obviously probably anyone you talk to knows more than that we do as potential buyers, but how do you get a feel for that, Roberta?
That's a good question. Nowadays, they could probably go on some of the social media sites. I know on my Facebook page, I put postings when I have a listing or when I have buyers that close, that kind of thing. They could search that way. Okay. And also you can ask the agent.
Just say where the last deals you've done, or, where do you do most of your deals? How many in the last
year? Or, yeah.
Okay. All right, great. So the big question, of course, that everyone's wanting to know, and Roberta, we'll start with you on this one. What's the real estate market like today? And how do we compete with multiple offers?
The market is still a seller's market. The homes are going pretty fast when they're priced where they should be. Right now in Lompoc, we have 31 listings. In those listings, it includes everything from a mobile home that starts at $25,000 to a $5 million ranch. In that 31 is pretty big range. And then in Santa Maria, as of today, we have 59 listings on the market. And their low range is 49 for a mobile home. And their highest house that I saw this morning was 1.8 million. So there's not much out there that's in the middle range for people right now. In Lompoc, there may be one or two homes that are under 500,000, but it's going to start at probably 500,000 for something that you move into and you may not need a lot of work on it. A lot of repairs and stuff to do.
So that's a single family home, about 500,000 in Lompoc.
For something that doesn't need any work, possibly, yeah.
Okay. And what would the same home go for? I know, is that even a comparison? Say if you're looking in the valley, what would that home go for?
I'm not sure about the valley.
Okay.
How about you, Maudia?
I was looking at the MLS today, which is our resource for all the listings, and it was pretty trippy seeing an $800,000 home in Lompoc and then right above it an $800,000 home in Solvang. Generally, the market goes up quite a bit faster in the valley than it does in Lompoc, but I've noticed an influx of people coming from bigger cities. They've really been attracted to Vandenberg Village, Mesa Oaks, Country Club area, so they've really driven prices up there. So coming from Santa Barbara or coming from LA. So those prices are rising really fast in Lompoc. That's like you're saying, the medium price is about 450, 500,000. And it's really hard to find those mid-range homes. The last one I sold for $495. Well, listed it for $475, sold it before it hit the market for $20,000 over. Like, that's just how fast they go.
Mhm.
And, that's the importance of having a realtor that could be there full time and check that MLS every day and send you listings. And like Roberta said, have those conversations about what you're looking for and what areas, and just really being on top of it. Doing our
So I
job.
know in our conversations before we got started, Roberta and Maudia, you were sharing that some places are going, with multiple offers within 24 hours. Is that the most common thing you're seeing, Roberta, or is that an outlier?
It is common when the property is priced where it should be, and especially the lower price range.
Mhm.
Yeah, I probably could have listed that one for more, but you have to have strategy even when you're listing homes. And if you price it too high, even in this market, people want to take advantage and get the most money that they can. But what you do is you risk people completely overlooking that home. If you price it correctly in this market, most likely you're going to get offers above what, above what you're asking, which is, that's proven to be the thing. There has been a few listings that have sat on the market for a while, and you see them going 2 or 3 weeks and you're like, what's wrong with that house? And well, it's kind of a slow time of year, and people are like, look, we've been overpaying for the last year. Well, I guess overpaying subjective. It's, supply and demand. So they've been chasing homes for so long, but now people are like, okay, wait, that's just too much. That's a complete fixer-upper. We're not willing to do that. So there have been surprisingly a few price drops. I don't think overall the market's slowing down, but it has been interesting to see that in a few areas where I don't know if you look, Roberta, and go, oh my God. Even for us, it's surprising.
Yes, there's a couple.
Yeah, we're like,
Yeah.
what were they thinking? Why would they price that house like that? But a lot of them you see
Right.
coming down little by little here.
So you're seeing a property going stale in 2 or 3 weeks. That's interesting. That used to be like 2 or 3 months that would
I
go
think the
stale, right?
average day on market was 60 days around here, kind of pre-pandemic. And then it was, up, gone in 2 or 3 days. Property it's listed, it's gone. But a couple of these houses that they've really overpriced are sitting on the market, and maybe that's a good thing because maybe it'll level things out a bit.
Mhm.
I don't think anything's going to drop really anytime soon, but I think it'll level out here.
Roberta, are you seeing more inventory come on the market, or is it still pretty scarce?
Well, 31 active listings really isn't that much, but in the last couple days, there's been like 1 or 2, which is better than it's been for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. And Maudia, how do you recommend that your buyers, compete with multiple offers when you have a multiple offer situation? What's the best strategy to get recognized, or hopefully win that bidding war?
There's quite a few things that you can do, and one of them is giving up your firstborn child. That's the thing now. I'll usually get to the deal. No, but so there's a couple of things you can do in the contract. You can put down a larger earnest money deposit, and that's typically between 1% and 3%, but the higher, that's more money that you're willing to put on the line. Shows the seller that you're serious, you're willing to put that on the line. Shorter inspection periods. It's typically 17 days. I've been seeing a lot of 10-day inspection periods. Have a reputable local lender. That's been a big one. Some people just get pre-approved online, but I've noticed a lot more deals get accepted when it's a lender that's local. They're well known. We know that they're going to get that loan closed in a timely fashion. I do get on the phone with other agents before I submit offers, and there's really not much they can tell, but you try and develop that rapport with them just right off the bat. You try and pick for little details about what offers came in and just kind of get a feel for what their client is looking for, what's the most important thing to them. And then I mean, there's a couple other things you can do. In this market, I wouldn't really ask for closing costs. So if your buyer's able to cover their closing costs, that's a big one. In a buyer's market, they can ask for those all day long, and it's pretty normal now. Sellers have so many options that they're like, no, we're not going to pay your closing costs. We'll just go with a different offer.
Good points. Good points. Roberta, anything to add to that? How do you go about that when you're in that tough, multiple offer situation? Anything that you feel it's been successful for you?
Well, one thing you can do too is you can shorten the inspection period. The contract standard is a 17-day inspection period. Some agents will maybe cut it down to 10 days. That way the seller knows in a shorter amount of time if there's an issue with the property that's not going to cause the buyer to move forward. And depending on how aggressive a buyer wants to be, I've had offers come in where the buyers have removed their inspection contingency. I don't recommend that. I wouldn't recommend that because you don't know the condition of the house. But people have removed the inspection contingency. And then I also had a buyer that removed their loan contingency. And that's kind of scary too. I wouldn't recommend that either. One way I had a listing, or I was representing the buyers, and we were up against eight other offers on a house, and they really wanted the house. So what my buyer decided that he wanted to do is he just wanted to offer like $20,000 over the asking price. And I talked to him, and we communicating with each other. We came up with, okay, if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to put a cap on it. So I'm not just going to say 20,000. I'm going to say he decided that he was going to go 1,000 over the highest offer that comes in up to a certain number. And so that's what we did, and he got the house.
So that's something that sellers are open to. You just say, I'll take the best offer plus this amount.
Right. And it ended up that his offer was the best, so he didn't have to pay anymore. So he would have paid, I think, 15,000 more if he had gone with his original 25 or 20,000 that he wanted to go over.
Okay.
You can also write in the contract what we call an appraisal gap contingency. I mean, you can offer whatever you want on a house, but it has to appraise. Most of the time, if it doesn't appraise, you're going to have to come in with that money. Different market, the seller might lower the price. If it's a VA loan, it has to appraise. So you can come in with, say, I want to offer 20,000 over, and you can write in there, I guarantee I'll pay up to 10,000 if there is a discrepancy between offer price and appraisal. So that's another way to kind of secure, like, we have a pretty good idea of what things are going to appraise. Like, yes, you want to go 50,000 over, but there's no comps in the area to support that. So most likely it won't, but that's just another way that you can, have the seller be a little bit more secure in accepting your offer.
So that's a little bit of a gimme, but you've got some protection as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It also depends on your down payment. If you're putting 20% down, you might not necessarily have to worry about that, because you're only getting a loan on, whatever less you have to put down. So 500,000, you're putting down 200,000. You only have to have it appraised for that 300,000. Of course, you want it to appraise for the 5, but it won't be a problem with the lender then.
Right. Interesting. Any other tips that you think would be helpful, or just that, when someone's in that situation where they feel like, okay, I really just have to have this house, that they can do other than just trying to be, is it always the highest price that gets it, or is it sometimes some of the terms, or?
Sometimes it's terms. Some people want to rent back the house for 30 days because they're still looking, they're not sure where they're going to go. Some people want the quickest close. So if your lender is able to close in 21 days, that would be huge. We really don't know what people's motivations are. If you're the listing agent, you're going to have that conversation with your client and kind of know their motivation, but inevitably they might just want a nice family in there, which we really can't I'm
You're not
gonna
going to
get
know that
down
ahead
to,
of time.
yeah, legalities. You can't really talk about who's moving in or pick and choose that way. But
Right.
some people write what we call love letters. I don't recommend them. It was a big deal for a while to write a letter, but if you do, just keep it very simple. I love your home. It's a beautiful location. Nothing personal, because
Mhm.
there are laws against, people being discriminated against. So that's
Mhm.
why we kind of keep those really clean and very simple, and probably just,
Not included pictures.
yeah,
Mhm.
yes, because you don't want the seller one's not going to be want to be opened up for a potential lawsuit,
Mhm.
and so kind of don't recommend those, but
Yeah, and a lot of the listing agents are now saying that they won't present them if they get them.
If they get a letter or if they get a picture,
yeah,
Either,
either one. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Because then it opens the listing agent as well as the buyer's agent up to more scrutiny.
mhm.
Yeah, and the sellers too. Yeah.
Okay, good. Great. Well, we have time to go into some questions from our attendees. Kim, are you seeing
Yes,
questions?
yeah, we have 2 questions in the queue.
Okay.
So thanks so much to Roberta and Maudia. This has been so informative. The first question is, what is the best strategy for relocating from out of state?
Roberta, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So if you're relocating to our area from another state, then it would be good to contact a local agent in that area. And here at Coldwell, what we can do where I'm at is we can set you up so that you're able to do a search in our area and get an idea of the market so that you know what to be prepared with the prices of the area that you're moving to. So you can kind of do your own research, and also if you contact an agent, they can keep you updated too, let you know how the market's changing.
Right.
And if you need help as far as the home or the area that you're currently in, and you don't know of an agent, then we would be able to help you find one in your area too.
Okay. You said you had another question, Kim?
Yeah, the other question is, it says, I'm hearing a lot of sellers with substantial repairs cited during the inspection are refusing to make repairs and passing the financial burden to the buyers.
Okay, Maudia, want
I
to
don't
address
know.
that?
So in California, technically you can't sell a home as is, but a seller does not have to agree to any repairs. So at the point in time when you get through all your inspections and say there are things that they're not willing to do, I mean, that's where we come in. That's where we come in and we negotiate for you. I usually don't ask for repairs necessarily, as I ask for credits. So for the seller to credit the buyer a certain amount of money, it's just safer that way. I've had people come in and do a crappy job repairing stuff, and then you're all kind of just stuck, but well, technically they repaired it. So what are you going to do? Some people can't. There's usually it'll be listed that they're not going to fix anything. They're selling the house just like that. You can always ask, but they're not obligated to fix anything.
Do you find that once you're in escrow with someone that the seller is more likely to go ahead and fix those things because they realize they're in escrow with someone and they're thinking, well, I don't want to fall out of escrow. I'm going to go ahead and repair some of those things? Or do they just take a hard line knowing that there's someone behind them that's going to step right into that escrow?
I think that's,
It depends.
oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. I was just going to say it depends on their motivation. Some of the sellers that I've worked with right now are they're purchasing another home. And so their home purchase of the other one is contingent on the one that they're living in selling. So if anything falls apart, it could affect them getting the home that they want. And I find that a lot of the times the sellers may be willing to do some repairs if they're health and safety issues. Then a lot of the times the ones I work with have felt obligated to do some of them. But as far as new carpet and paint and that stuff, no.
Is that what you're seeing, Maudia?
Yeah, I was going to say that's also an important part of having that conversation with the listing agent. I think that goes between listing and buyer's agent, is when a listing agent is guiding their client into accepting an offer, you can write it in the MLS, but you want to make sure, like, look, they're not going to do any repairs. This is where, you have to be honest. So your buyers have to be honest. They don't want to do any repairs. They don't want to do any credits. So you have to communicate that with your clients and hope that they understand that when the time comes, shy of, like you said, anything, to do with health or safety, or I don't know, maybe you find some crazy crack in the foundation or something to that effect. But for the little things, you should kind of just get a good idea ahead of time before you even submit that offer.
Hmm. And do you think a buyer kind of feels pressure to quickly that they don't get a good feel for the property up front, and they're hoping to get that during escrow, or do you think, is that a bad kind of strategy to go in with?
I had a property that needed some work that I was working with the buyers. And when we looked at the house, we noticed that there could be some dry rot and the roof was really old. And I think it was original. The house was built like in the 50s. And so when we wrote the offer, after talking to the buyers, they said that, well, I know that we're going to want a new roof and we're going to want a pest clearance. And so instead of taking it where we're in escrow and we ask the sellers for those items, we wrote it in the contract to begin with. And these people were lucky, they got the new roof and they got the pest work. So it's kind of better to tell them up front, because then they'll have a better idea on what the seller will do.
That's an interesting approach. Kim, are there other questions that have come in?
I don't see any other questions right now, but please feel free to add them to the chat.
We do have some more time. So if you have questions that are coming up, this is your time to ask the experts. But also know that, so don't feel pressured. You can always, you have, Roberta and Maudia's contact information here. And I think Kim's put their emails in the chat.
Yep.
And you can reach out to them at any time. You can also reach out to Kim or me, anytime through the home buying process. So kind of depending on where you are in the process, reach out when you get to that point where you think, okay, I'm really ready to start now. What do I do? And are there other resources for me? We do offer home buying seminars that talk a lot about the lending process and how to get started with that. Of course, that's the best place to start your home buying process, is to get pre-approved. As Maudia and Roberta mentioned, that's a really important first step. And, we talk in our other webinars about how to do that, what's involved in that, just so that's not quite such a daunting process. So, feel free to attend one of those webinars or reach out to us and we can send you a link to those. But we're always all here as a resource. And I think that's what's so great about the network of real estate agents and lenders that we work with as part of Coastal Housing, is they're just eager to support you and help you through the process. And even if you're not ready to buy right away, feel free to reach out to them. So Roberta, Maudia, anything else that you feel that, we haven't covered that you might be valuable tips to potential home buyers, or things that you are finding through your experiences, good and bad, that would be helpful?
I would say don't be afraid to ask questions. It's a simple question. If you're not ready to buy yet, it doesn't matter. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions.
I think that's a really good point. I always get that question of, oh, I didn't want to ask that. I didn't want them to think I didn't know what I was doing. And it's like, oh, none of us know what we're doing. I mean, that's why you have a real estate agent working for you. So even if you bought a home before, it's a brand new process every time you do it, because it's a different market. So you should never be afraid of any questions. And a good agent, a good lender is going to be happy to answer any questions you have, and really wanting you to get up to speed and comfortable with that process. So that's a good point. Roberta, anything that's come to you?
I was just going to mention, when you said partners that you have a really good home inspector that's in the Coastal Housing partnership also. So that's a really good benefit to use. I think it's a 10% discount. Daryl Clegg, he does a great job up here.
Yes, that's right. We do, in addition to the real estate agent offering a portion of their commission, the lender reducing their closing costs, we do work with a number of home inspectors that offer a nice savings. So make sure you take advantage of all those savings, and they really add up and can generally cut your closing costs by about 50%. So it's a great opportunity to get in and be able to use those other monies toward your down payment or other aspects of your closing costs. So
Okay, we do have two questions that popped up.
I knew if we went on long enough, we get more.
I love it. Don't be shy. How do I use my home's equity to get another home? How does that process work?
Okay.
I think that is probably more of a lender question, but it really is a lender question. It depends on how much equity you have. And it, depends on, it's like getting pre-approved all over again and seeing how much you're able to pull out. That one really is a lender question. Now, I don't want to steer anyone in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Maudia. That is a lender question and a question to address with the lender really early on in the process. Depends what you're trying to do with that other property. Are you just trying to take some equity out of that? Are you selling that later? Are you trying to use that as a rental down the road? So it's part of a very big picture with a lot of moving gears. So that's something to talk to the lender about right away and say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. What's the best way to approach that? How do I make sure I'm going to get the best interest rates? And, how much should I take out of that property? Does it make sense to try to get a 20% down, or, am I, able to do that? So a lot of times people are thinking they need 20% down, and that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of loan programs out there that don't require that high down payment. So that's a conversation to really have with the lender, and make sure you get a good lender that really knows what they're doing. So if that's the case, I would send this individual straight to the lender without, passing go. You've got to just really, take that step right now. So,
and I also put in the chat our lender panel that is going to be on December 7th. And so that feel free to register for that as well when that comes up. And then the other question that we have is, can we walk through money down options? In a market like ours, 20% down is often out of their reach for an opening price point or mid-market buyer.
Roberta, do you want to take that one?
Sure. And that again is a lender question because there are different programs. With FHA, you can put down 3.5%. That's usually what FHA is, around 3.5%. And I've seen that some conventional even at 15%. So again, you need to speak to a lender, and depending on your credit, they have different programs that they can get you into.
Yeah.
Good. Maudia, did you have something to add to that?
I was just going to mention the same thing, that it could be as low as 3.5% down. There's also VA loans, which don't require a down payment necessarily. There's just a lot of different programs, and there are city-specific programs also, and a good lender will know what those are, that have down payment assistant type programs. So.
Right, and that's why it's such a good idea to start with a lender, figure out what your strategy is. I mean, a lot of people are thinking, oh, I'm saving for a certain down payment. That's the best way to go. Well, while you're saving for the down payment, the market may get away from you. So sometimes it makes sense to get in with less than a 20% down, maybe pay mortgage insurance for a period of time, just to be competitive now. So that's where the lender can lay out a number of different options for you, and you can see what makes sense for you and your family. And you mentioned the VA loan. That's certainly one to look at with no down payment, no mortgage insurance, just an application fee. That's certainly such a great benefit to veterans that's certainly something to be explored. But when you're talking to a lender, just make sure you ask them, do you have a number of low down payment loan options, so that you're not just strictly looking at the FHA, but that they're looking at a variety of different low down payment options, because this is an expensive market. It's hard to come up with 20%. So instead of maybe pushing that purchase off down the road, you're able to do something sooner than you think. So I highly recommend talking to the lender. And even if you don't think your purchase is, for a year or 18 months, I would still talk to a lender now. I think that's a really important first step.
Right, and that's important also because the lender can let you know if there's any issues with your credit and what you can do to repair it so that when you are ready, you're prepared.
Right. They're going to tell you other things. Yes, Maudia, I see you talking. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention it's also important to keep in mind with the higher price points in housing, the interest rates are still really low. So if we do see things level out or maybe go lower, if those interest rates go up, you're going to be paying about the same.
Yeah, that's a good point. Our interest rates are so great right now that it does kind of balance out that, you can get a lot more mortgage than you have in years past. So take advantage of that. Great. Kim, anything else in the Q&A?
No questions right now.
Okay. Well, we'll come to a close unless there are other things that Roberta and Maudia, you feel like, you want to share with our group today. You've covered a lot, so it's been a wealth of information, and I really appreciate your time and sharing with our group. And I appreciate the attendees for coming in today, and we'd be happy to send you the link to this recording. And we wish you success in your path to home ownership. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you for having me.